So this next panel, I'm glad academia is a big part of what we're trying to accomplish in this cyberspace. You were here earlier. I think we had a great introductory speech about the diversity, what Lone Star College is doing, what HBU is doing. I know Sam Houston State has a program. All these schools are trying to get us there. And I think part of the challenge is also how you train these people up and get them to that next level. Where do they go? Where do they go to find work? And I think this panel is going to help us answer some of those questions under the direction of the, Ms. Mary's going to help us out here a little bit. And if you all don't know Mary already, those of you who may not be in the, used to talking to the academia people, Mary's the, and I'm going to try to read this because it's about this long, right? It says, not the whole thing, just your title. The title's about this long, right? Her whole bio is this long. Mary is the Assistant Vice President Chancellor of Information Security and serves as a CISO of the University of Houston and the University of Houston system. That's pretty impressive, right? I think she's got her hands full, right? And she's been with us from day one on the board, and we've always tap her on the shoulder and say, hey, what's going on over in the education area? And she brings a wealth of information, a wealth of great talent to come help us accomplish what we're trying to do here with this group of people that we've put together. So I'll turn it over to Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. And I'd like to say a special thanks to Mel and CenterPoint Energy for allowing us to have this great venue here today. This has been fantastic, and you can't have a better MC than Mel. So thank you very, very much. So as Mel said, I am the Chief Information Security Officer for UH and the UH system, and that's made up of 4 component universities. So it is quite a challenging job, but I will tell you, the real superheroes are the other people that share the stage with me today. And these are the people that are truly building the workforce of the future. These are the people that are responsible for the curriculum of some of our most prestigious schools within the Houston region. These are the people that are educating and solving the problems that you heard about all morning. This is the answer to our problems. So these are the superheroes. What I do is on the operational side. So I just get to sit back and reap the benefits of the great students that they're putting through their programs. And as they partner with industry to find out what do people need for our workforce, I'm one of those people that I'm the consumer. I'm getting the benefits of all the great students that they're putting forth. So it is my true honor to be able to introduce our panel. We're going to give you some sense first of where are these people coming from? What are their schools? What are their curriculums? What types of programs do they have? And I will tell you before any of you think, oh, well, this doesn't apply to me, because it applies to all of us. If you are a student, then you can hear about some of the other programs, maybe even hear about the program you're in and hear something different that you didn't already know about it. If you are not a student, but you are a technology professional, you may hear something that goes, oh, I want to go back to school. I want to take part in one of these programs. And if you are a business owner or you work in industry, then you may be listening to hear how your employees can take advantage of some of these programs, or how you can leverage the great students that are coming out of these programs for your company's benefit. So I would venture to say that there's something for everybody in the room. So I'm going to let them tell you what they do and what their programs are like, and I'm going to start with the dean at Houston Christian University now. They just changed their name, Katie Evans.
Thanks so much, Mary, and a big thanks to Houston Cyber Summit. We're just thrilled to be able to be here and represent Houston Christian University. As Mary indicated, up until about 2 weeks ago, we were Houston Baptist University, and so we are in the middle of that name change, and we'll continue that process in the upcoming months. I have to first just say a few comments about Houston Christian University, and it really resonates and ties together with what you heard from Dean Hubbard this morning. Houston Christian University is not what you may typically think about when you think small private Christian university. We really do represent the face of Houston. We are a Hispanic serving institution with about 45% undergrad Hispanic students, about 25% Black or African American, and about 16% students who identify as non-Hispanic white students. So we really do represent that data chart that you saw from Dean Hubbard this morning. I am the Dean of the College of Science and Engineering. You may hear science and engineering and think, what does that have to do with a small liberal arts university? But for us, being a liberal arts university, we see that as making our students all the better in their chosen professions, including cybersecurity experts. So just a handful of years ago, we launched cyber engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. We are proud to say that all of our engineering degree programs include a strong emphasis or thread in cybersecurity. And of course, with cyber engineering being that hallmark program, and it lives at the interface of information technology and operations technology. We have just launched an information systems degree. We expect our first graduates from that program in a couple of years. But out of those engineering programs, we just had our first graduates this past May. Really excited to point out one close to the back row, one of Houston's first cyber engineers. And truly, this would not have been possible without an outstanding advisory board. As I look around the room, and I've met different faces and looked at faces today, I've counted no less than about 9 members from this group on our science and engineering advisory board. And so truly, this community has just wrapped their arms around us to help us be successful. But we are growing and moving and adding programs as we're seeking ABET accreditation for the engineering, and be looking for a master's degree soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Tom?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tom Rayfield, and I am a teacher at the Rose M. Avalos P-Tech School in Aldine ISD. I came to Texas in 2005, and prior to that, I was a music teacher. I got my bachelor's degree in music education at Syracuse, and transitioned over into technology as a technology specialist and a program director in Aldine. And then I spent about 5 years in the private sector being the IT guy and kind of an operations manager for a couple of small businesses in the area. So the idea behind providing education and security for clients and business owners that struggle with running their own businesses in their own expertise has always been top of mind for me. Avalos P-Tech is the first P-Tech campus in the Houston area, and the idea of a P-Tech came from the Texas legislature in around 2017, and it is one of the school of choice models that started with the early college high school model, which students that attended that would earn an Associates of Arts and while they were in high school, and it was followed by a T-STEM school, and then P-Tech stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School. And the difference between a P-Tech and a standard early college high school is that in addition to getting an associate's degree, there is an emphasis on industry certifications, workforce development, mentoring, and real work-based learning experiences. And so that's where I came into the picture. I came back to Aldine ISD and started the cybersecurity program at Avalos. Avalos also has a non-destructive testing program, paralegal studies, and a teaching and training program. And so in 2019, myself, and I'm also joined by one of my colleagues, Dawn Hankins, and we have a third cybersecurity teacher that drew the short straw and had to stay back with the other students today. Luann Harvey, who is very active in this organization as well. Wanted to give her a shout out. And 8 of our first graduating seniors of the class of 2023 who will have their associate's degree in cybersecurity and industry certifications, and will be ready to either continue their education in cybersecurity or be employed by one of you all after they graduate this summer. So super proud of them. I feel like the idea of being the first generation of student that has the opportunity to attend college. I'm a first generation college graduate myself. Another focus of the PTech model is that it is in an area where students wouldn't otherwise have these opportunities to go to college. And so everything is provided for them free of charge. They get all of their textbooks. They get access to state-of-the-art computer labs, the equipment that they need to learn the skills that they need to earn their degree. And I'm proud to say that of the 116 students that we have enrolled at Avalos PTech, that we do have 44 girls in the program. I want it to be higher than that, but we're at almost 40% female, and at least 90% of the entire group are considered at risk in one or more categories. So we're really providing opportunities for students that wouldn't have them otherwise if the program didn't exist itself. So that's a little bit about our program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Dean
Tom.
Hubbard.
I'm Kim Hubbard. I am the Dean for IT and Visual Communications at Lone Star College Westway Park Technology Center. And I have the wonderful privilege of working with Tom's students as our first group of dual credit cybersecurity students. And so the program he was just explaining that his students are going through, they are working directly with our college professors. They are taking courses directly with the college professors. And so they'll be able to finish with their AAS degree. If some students don't unfortunately finish, they'll still be able to finish within a year by coming to Lone Star after graduating from high school. So that has been a wonderful privilege in working with Tom's team. Lone Star College is a pretty large entity in terms of education. We are a community college. We have 8 main campuses, and we have about 100,000 students. And so when you look at, community colleges and even some universities, that's pretty large in terms of student base. We have a large offering of different degree plans and workforce. I am fortunately, because I love it, over the IT programs, and my campus, Westway Park, does offer pretty much all of the IT training that we offer in the Lone Star College system. We also offer somewhat of a different type of training through our corporate college entity. And so what we aim to do is to train a workforce that may come in with no knowledge whatsoever in cybersecurity, take them through the AAS degree program. We also have a bachelor's of applied technology in cybersecurity. We were one of the first, if not the first, community colleges to be able to offer a bachelor's degree. It is a 4-year degree. So the plan is for anyone to come in, not have any experience in IT and or cybersecurity, start their training at the AAS level, work up to the bachelor's level, and once they finish the bachelor's, they can go into our corporate college training entity for even more advanced training. So our plan is to literally provide our employers here in Houston with a very well-trained workforce in terms of the cybersecurity skill sets, but also in pretty much anything you can think about in terms of enterprise networking. I have been with Lone Star for about 20 years. Before Lone Star, I did work in industry, and even after coming to Lone Star, I still worked in industry with my own company and did a lot of consulting. And so it has been a really big honor for me to be with Lone Star from the ground up in terms of building new programs, being innovative, and being reactionary in terms of what your needs are for a skilled workforce. And so that's who we are. That's who I am. I'm excited to be on this panel with educators because we have a lot to share with you, so please ask your questions.
Great, thank you. Dr. Malki.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Haydar Maliki. I'm Interim Dean of College of Technology at the University of Houston. This is my 5th week as Interim Dean. It's a pretty challenging one. And I like to represent our college. We are one of the 16 colleges at the University of Houston. We have more than 5,200 students. According to American Society for Engineering Education, we are number one in terms of enrollment, number of students graduating from technology programs, and number one in minority and women graduating from technology. So we are very proud of our students graduating nationally in top one. We have 4 departments. We have a set of diverse and interdisciplinary programs. We have 11 undergraduate programs and 11 graduate programs. I'm just going to name a few of them. So one of the departments is engineering technology, where we have computer engineering technology, mechanical engineering technology, and biotechnology. And then we have another department, information and logistics technology, where we have digital media, computer information systems, and technology leadership and innovation management. And the third department is construction management, where we have undergraduate programs in construction and supply chain logistics. And then we have human development and consumer sciences, where we have retailing, human resource development as undergraduate programs. At the graduate level, as I said, we have 11 graduate programs ranging from mechanical engineering technology, network communications, cybersecurity, and foresight, which is like forecasting future of the, let's say, oil and gas or medical field in the next 30 years. And we have graduate program in construction management. Obviously, this conference is about cybersecurity, so I'm going to discuss a little bit about our cybersecurity program. It is a graduate program, 2 years graduate program, and it is one of the largest programs. We have more than 100 students. It is designed for professional, and most of our courses are offered in the evening or even on Saturday, so people from industry can come and take the courses. And it is designed for students who want to become leaders and professional in information technology as well as cybersecurity field. And our programs are recognized by the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security as well. On top of that, since our students also take project management courses, so our program is also recognized by Project Management Institute.
Great. Thank you very much. So as you can see, we have a very diverse set of offerings. A lot of people might think that education, like other industries, is very competitive, and I'll tell you, in the sports arena and some of those arenas we are. But when it comes to cybersecurity, especially, with this panel, what we hope you understand is that we all work together. We're all trying to solve a problem, and this is all about collaboration and how we can learn from each other and build on each other. So a lot of awesome opportunities available through this panel. But one of the things that you probably have picked up on is that, cybersecurity is a fairly new field. I won't tell you when I graduated, but IT security wasn't even offered as a field of study when I graduated. So as technology has evolved, so have our course offerings evolved. So I'm going to ask a couple of our panelists, and I'll start with Dean Evans. So how has your program changed over the last 5 years or so? As technology has changed, how have you seen changes both in your curriculum and in the students, and what industry is looking for?
Thanks, Mary. And so for full disclosure, I've only been at HCU for about 16 months or so, but I'm aware of the program evolution and the changes. And so when the program was created, my predecessor, who's now the provost at Houston Christian, Dr. Stan Napper, who I know has met with many of the people in this room, He talked to industry. What are you looking for? And he heard over and over projects, hands-on experience, practical application, teaming skills. And so truly, that's how our curriculum is designed. Even from the freshman year, our students are involved heavily in projects in their first semester, and they're actually completing 2 student-conceived design projects in their second semester of their freshman year. And so I want to put that out there again. Student conceived. They're coming up with their own design project on the engineering side as well as the computer science side. They're sourcing sensors and actuators and using the theory that they're learning in their courses, including cybersecurity, and how that is brought to bear on those design projects. And that carries all the way through the curriculum, all the way to senior design, where we have students completing projects in teams, including industry-sponsored projects. So note in the room, we are always open to working with you on industry-sponsored projects. And we actually designed our curriculum to where every class is actually scheduled as an integrated lecture lab. And so for the academics up here, you know what that does to room scheduling. Some people on campus may not like us, but we actually think it's really important that our students can learn the theory and just in time, right there in the same room, translate seamlessly over to practicing what they're learning in the theory and the textbook and from the faculty. So they're practicing with those in teams and hands-on learning. So we do have this great advisory board who supports us. Each of our programs has an advisory board. So we are constantly talking about curriculum. What are you seeing as changing in trends? What do you see as needs in your area? And so we just have outstanding partners supporting us to respond to those needs.
Great, thank you. Dr. Maliki, do you have some thoughts?
Okay, thank you, Mary. Like other technology programs, our cybersecurity program undergoes revision regularly in order to keep the pace in rapidly evolving nature of the field. And in order to meet that goal, and especially our program is very applied in nature, so we try to offer the curriculum such that the students are ready to work in industry. And at the same time, if you look at like the changes in the last 5 years, for example, ransomware was not discussed 5 years ago, but right now it is one of the real topic, and students try to learn how to actually provide solutions and also mitigate and protect if unfortunately attacked. So another thing is because of the nature of the degree, we have to also look at the policy issues. For example, NSA issued pipeline policy, and immediately our program actually started teaching those topics in our courses. Sometimes the content changes in the courses, and sometimes our faculty introduces new courses. And if you look at our program or curriculum, you see the program's courses that ranges from introduction to cybersecurity, risk analysis, and digital forensic, and cryptography, and all topics changes, as technology changes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to do something totally unfair. I'm going to ask our panelists to look into the future, into the crystal ball, and see where do you see your program evolving over the next 5 years or so? How do you see a lot of the technologies that we talked about throughout the day and that we've heard on the news? How do you see that impacting your program, and where do you see your program going? And I'm going to start, Dean Hubbard, with you.
So I think that's a great question to piggyback on the what have you seen in the last 5 years. I think, so what I've seen in the last 5 years, having been doing this for 20 years, is a more robust requirement of the high-end technical aspect of training. All of our courses are lecture, but all of the courses are lab. So you are literally practicing what you are learning. You're putting into practice what you're learning on a theoretical level. The other part of that is, it's two parts. The first part is we have noticed the huge demand that the workforce has going on, and goes back to the diversity this morning. We talked about the unfilled positions, but what we tend to do is we train in a shorter time frame. We train in a fast track time frame so that we are not necessarily holding back a skilled workforce for 2 whole years before they're even finished with their training and ready to go into the workforce. We have courses that are offered in 4-week formats, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. We also have courses that are offered in online synchronous formats as well as face-to-face. We have a very strong tie, a very strong connection with our industry partners. And what they have continuously told us excuse me, is that somebody said it earlier, it's the mindset. It's not necessarily the technical skills, it's the mindset. So we can bring our students in and get them ready and gear them up with the technical skills, but we've also integrated very heavily soft skills so that your students are now understanding how to work, how to hack and pen test and all of those things, but they're also able to work on teams, work on projects, things like that. So it's a mindset that we've actually integrated into all the programs. The second part of that was the infrastructure, the facilities that we train in. We have built Westway Park Technology Center, not a plug, I promise. We've built a center, a technology center that is specific for IT training. So much so that when you walk into the building, it does not look like a college campus, it looks like a business. So students are innately understanding what it means to go to work on a daily basis, work in a technical environment, and work on teams. That's part of their training. So when we take a look at all of that has changed in the last 5 years, where are we going in the next 5 to 10 years? I foresee that getting even more into the weeds in terms of the technical aspect of the training. We talked a lot about the disparity and diversity issues that we have in cybersecurity, but we also talked about all of those unfilled jobs that will be available in the next 3 to 5 years. And you have to realize cyber crimes that are happening now are new. You don't necessarily have individuals that are well trained because this stuff is new. It's brand new. So you're learning it. You're learning how to, lock down you're learning how to secure your systems while you're learning what this new threat is. And that's only going to escalate for the next 3 to 5 years. So what I foresee is a stronger emphasis on the formal training aspect in an environment that looks exactly like the environment that students are going to be protecting when they get their real job. And if we can put that into context, looking at what our employers are telling us on our advisory boards, it sometimes takes educational institutions, and all of y'all know this, it sometimes takes us 2 years to get a program approved. In that 2-year time frame, the world of IT has jumped 10 years ahead, right? So how do we work? What do we do about that? And again, that's some of the changes that I foresee in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to have to change state policies because there's no way we can keep up with the need in the skilled area if we cannot fast track all of these policies and these processes that allow us to put the necessary training on schedule. So that's some of what I see coming up in the next 5 to 10 years.
Great. Thank you. Now, Tom, you have a totally different perspective in the sense that you get the students coming in, so you get what they're asking for. You're also having to guide them with what you hear industry looking for. So what do you see as the future of curriculum?
It's a very complicated, multifaceted question because as Kim mentioned, there are multiple entities that support K-12. And so you have TEA, and we have our college partner, Lone Star College, and we have our own district administration and local campus administration and industry that are all providing feedback on the program. And so I'm looking at this through the lens of being in the last year of our first iteration going through this program. And it's been challenging. I've used the phrase building the plane while flying it at the same time, and also kind of feeling like a pinball. And COVID didn't make that any easier in terms of how we were able to deliver the instruction and do those type of things. What I see in the future, and I stumbled on, I don't even know how I did this, but I stumbled on the recent semiconductor legislation and listened to a podcast about it. It's called the CHIPS bill, and I think the media portrays it largely as just a whole lot of money to help ensure that we begin building microchips here in the United States, and so that we're not put in such a difficult position for supply chain and security reasons. And that's a big thing in cybersecurity. And but inside that bill, and I took some notes on it, there are some very specific languages and mandates in the bill that talk about very specifics towards K-12. And it says, expand the STEM workforce pipeline by increasing the number of youth in the U.S. exposed to STEM from early age and encourage them to pursue careers in STEM-related fields. Broaden participation of groups historically underrepresented in STEM and in the STEM workforce. Provide effective, compelling, and engaging means for teaching and reinforcing fundamental STEM concepts to pre-K to grade 12 students. Scaling innovation in STEM's program, expanding outreach in STEM program, cybersecurity scholarships for graduate students through the NSF, developing a scholarship for service program through public-private partnerships. Well, a lot of that sounds like what we're talking about here today. And this legislation passed, what, a month ago? And so what I see is through partially with this legislation, it's going to be so critical for school districts, small and large, rural and urban, throughout the area, to begin inspiring students at a very young age that they see themselves as IT professionals, as cybersecurity professionals. Because I can tell you to a person, if you talk to any of my 8 students that are here today, when they came to Avalos P-Tech, they had no idea what cybersecurity was. And it's been very challenging for them to kind of be inspired. And Miss Dawn Hankins, my colleague that's here today, asked some of them, and she was like, if you had been to this event in 10th grade, would that have changed your perspective on the program that you were in? And they said yes. And so it's so important for young people to be able to see themselves in that space. And many children and students don't see themselves as an IT professional or someone that can be great at math or computer science and that type of thing. And so I think it is so important that as industry, that you all start marketing yourselves for what you want and become a destination. It's very easy for young students to see themselves as athletes or as FBI agents on TV or those very cool flashy things. But how do we make STEM cool in 8th grade? Aldine ISD has about 4,000 8th graders. And our challenge at Avalos is to is to identify, and again, we're not a magnet school. We have an application for students to attend, but students are enrolled through a blind lottery system, and we are required to meet certain criteria that the state says we are to meet in terms of matching our district demographics. But having said that, we want every year the 32 students that enroll in our program to know what they're getting into, and recognize and see themselves, and that means they have to start at a much younger age. And so I see the need for developing and growing, not even developing, growing, starting, and building upon computer science and STEM programs at a very, very early age. And unfortunately, you don't see a lot of that in our elementary schools or our middle schools, where the focus is so much on passing the state tests. And so they need a much more inspiring curriculum that will help them be ready when they get to high school. Because my students will tell you, when they get to high school in 9th grade, they start taking their college classes right away. And they're thankful for that now, but it was a very difficult transition. Think about yourself as a 14-year-old. Were you ready to be reading a college textbook, even a digital one, that would be that thick if it was printed out? And I know I wouldn't have been. So it's definitely where I see us in the future is having a stronger foundation in the grades leading up to us.
Great. Thank you. Well,
Add
I'm
on
encouraged
something to
and
that,
inspired.
Mary,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
And Tom, thank you for saying everything that you just said, because when you think about it, our 14-year-olds are not us when we were 14, right? We didn't have phones. We didn't have, my husband and I we were making fun of, telephone booths and all of these things, and the car phones that, you had to roll out with a card or something because it was so big. We didn't have all of the technologies that we have now. And what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that our youth are capable of learning, right? They're capable of learning what we may consider difficult content. We just have to introduce it to them. I would love to see the whole Star Trek model, when you see the young kids on Star Trek and they're talking quantum physics and they're talking, like, we didn't talk about that they're going to be doing that in the future. Well, guess what? We're the future. We are there. We just have to introduce it. So that was some very profound information you just said.
Very good. Well, we'd like to kind of open it up and see what your thoughts are. So what questions do we have for our distinguished panel? What ideas do you have that you'd like to ask about? I think we have a question in the very back. A microphone is coming to you.
Hello, and thank you for your presentation. I entered IT a little over 20 years ago, and it was at a time when there was only thing available in education was certification tracks, and you targeted your education based on a particular tool that you were wanting to learn to master, whether it was the Windows operating system, whether it was an email system, whatever it was some kind of quantifiable tool that you were wanting to learn how to conquer. And so today, after 20 years later, you see compliance now, you see project management, all of these aspects of, cybersecurity are now relevant from legal and for other reasons that didn't exist when I started. How do you see the education that students are going to be getting through your schools? Do you feel like you're competing with companies that want to specifically trained personnel in a Fortinet firewall or a Cisco switch? Are vendors coming to you and saying, hey, we need somebody to run a tenable vulnerability management system? Or are you teaching the broader principles that companies may or may not be interested in?
Good question.
Because if you teach a welder how to use a welder, he or she is sufficient in providing a livelihood for their family. Why do they need to go to college
Right.
if they just need to master a tool?
Well, I can say immediately, we do not compete, we supplement. We supplement what companies are doing. And that goes back to saying we are offering what you need, how you need it. So it may not be a 16-week or a 2-year degree. It may be just reskilling. It may be just retraining for certification. So I think it's important for us to understand your needs from your aspect, but change our aspect and what we do to fit your needs. I think, again, one of the challenges that educational systems do face, we have to have approval from the state for everything we do. And that can be a long process. However, within that process, we have to learn to be flexible, right? So an example would be our flexibility is we offer level 1 certificates, which could be 8 weeks, it could be 4 weeks. A level 1 certificate allows you to come into the college, go into the very specific training courses you need without the English and the math and all of that, because you may not be interested in a degree, right? We allow you to go into the very specific courses you need to get the skill sets you need and get them very quickly. So we don't compete, we supplement. Right? And again, that goes back to what I was talking about this morning and what you just said. There was no formal training. There were no training courses. There were no training programs. You learned as you went. Now, training programs exist, but as educational institutions, we have to understand what we do has to match what you need. And so we cannot continue to go on the path of a 2-year approval process because, again, IT is 10 years ahead of us even 1 year from now. And so we have to make what we do applicable to what you do, which means we change our offerings, we change what we do to fit your needs. So we're a supplement.
Dr. Mel?
Sure. What I like to say, I think it complements, and at the same time, companies, they try to focus on a specific and narrow area. However, we provide very broad and fundamentals of the field, ranging from, let's say, programming, computer security, and cryptography. And as they graduate, they have very broader knowledge of the field. And then once they go to industry, they can also easily adapt to other things. That's how I see it.
Sure. So at Houston Christian, we're in a little bit different position with the engineering degrees. We really are trying to educate students for the jobs that do not exist today and the threats that do not exist today. That being said, I recognize the marketability of certs and what your industry wants for our students. So for us, it's education, and I'm also funding students to get pass their certification exams. First attempt, I'll pay for it because I want our students to do that, recognizing it's going to benefit them. It's going to give them that extra level of training that they need to be successful. We're also, again, building, we're growing, we're new, and so seeing the need for certain degrees, we're expanding, and we have a little bit more flexibility being private, so I'm trying to convince other leaders at my university that we need to be agile and recognize the changing in technology and launching degrees faster.
Great, thank you. Tom, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I think along the lines of supplementing, when we get students, the big picture goal for the student that leaves Avalos is that they have a strong foundation in programming and a strong foundation in networking and understand the fundamentals of the skills and the job roles associated with those skill areas in the cybersecurity space. But in addition to that, we're a small school and we do a lot of cross-curricular skill building. And so reading and problem solving and teamwork and all of those type of things are integrated into our curriculum naturally because we need the students to have those skills so that they can be successful in the curriculum. And we also offer the certification. So we're having these questions of what's more important. Is it the certifications, or is it the skill? Is it the curriculum itself? And the answer is yes, to a certain extent. But then it's which certifications, and then the answer usually is, well, it depends on what you want to do. And it takes the students a little while to see, well, I don't like programming as much as I like putting my hands on equipment. So then you may lean more towards an A+ certification and focus more on the Cisco CCNA side of things. But if you are someone that likes to do investigations, or you like policy, or you like those type of things, then you're going to lean more towards that area of cybersecurity, as opposed to more of the hardware type thing. So it's such a broad field, and I wouldn't expect a teenager to know exactly what they want to do for the most part. So we try to offer them a very broad range of skills that are transferable 5-10 years down the road to the jobs that don't exist yet.
Great, thank you. I'll say I probably don't know what I want to do 5 years from now, so who knows? Other questions? We'll get a microphone.
Testing.
Or you can just speak loud.
Hello?
So the question is, what steps do y'all take toward getting internships and jobs for your students?
I can tell you from the Lone Star College aspect, we do work very closely with industry partners. And so one of the biggest challenges we have in the cyberspace for internships and jobs, especially internships, not so much jobs, is the security aspect. We have to work with our industry partners because students are students, right? You have security concerns. And so that is a very delicate space we have to walk in, but that's a discussion we have with employers. We have open house for employers where we invite industry partners on campus. They meet with our students. Sometimes they do interviews right there on the spot. We also just work, phone calls, just recruiting efforts, a reverse recruiting effort, so to speak, where we recruit industry partners to come in and work with us for student placement. It's not very easy in the cyberspace, in the cybersecurity area, because there's a lot of concern around security. But one of the things that we've done, and this talks about the facilities again, our goal is to teach that student everything they need to know technically about cybersecurity in all of the different niches. And so we have locked down our building so that we can teach a student how to hack. We can teach a student how to pen test. We can teach all of these nuances in these different areas of cyber without the fear that there's going to be some catastrophic disaster on the security side. What does that do for us? Well, now we're able to actually invite our industry partners into the facility, show them what students are using in terms of the technology so that they are comfortable with the fact that the student can touch the exact same equipment we have. You're teaching the student the security aspect. You've locked down your network to show that. It makes it more comfortable for the industry partners to invite our students in for internships. So there's a lot of legwork we have to do in that area. But the main thing for us is we are there to provide you with a skilled workforce. And so we bring you in and you tell us what can we do. You tell us how can we provide you with interns? How can we build an internship with your company so that you're comfortable with our students? So that as those students progress from a level 1, level 2 to the AAS, all the way up to the bachelor's degree level, they can probably just walk into your organization as an employee because they've worked there with you as an intern. So there's a lot of legwork that happens to make all of that transpire, but it's a necessity for us to provide you with the skilled workforce that you need.
Katie?
So at HCU, all of our engineering majors are required to complete an internship for graduation. We've devoted a staff member in the college to support students in their professional development, mentoring them in resumes, elevator pitches, mock interviews, hosting career fairs. We're growing. We're doing our first engineering career fair this fall, partnered with College of Business. This is a new venture for the university, so it's exciting that people are wanting to partner with us. I mentioned all of the projects that we have from freshman all the way up to senior year. We bring in industry folks to serve as judges, so they're walking around interviewing our students on their projects and assessing them from the freshman year all the way to the senior year. As I make contacts, I extend an open door and roll out a red carpet because we are new and trying to be entrepreneurial. So always looking for partners interested in working with us and most importantly, meeting our students and seeing how great they are.
Great. Dr. Mann.
We also have an internship for our graduate students, so they have to take an internship. Most of them, they receive this internship by attending the career fairs that we have every semester. And some of them, we have invited guests from industry. They come out to classes and they recruit the students. And actually, most of them, they work in industry, so they have no problem of getting a job. The only challenges that we have sometimes for international students that are taking our graduate program.
Thank you. There's a question in the very back.
So with cybersecurity exploding within the last 5 to 10 years, there, quite frankly, is a lot of bad information that people that are wanting to come into this field are receiving. So if I'm a high school student and I'm debating, do I want to go to college, do a 2-year program, or do I want to do a boot camp? How, as educators, are you marketing or, I guess, delivering a message that our program and getting that degree, that 2-year program, whatever that is better than me going to a boot camp and getting a certification?
Can I answer that, please?
Absolutely.
Please let me answer. I wanted to answer that question because I've worked with both entities. I've worked with an entity that offered nothing but boot camps, and I've worked with Lone Star that offers degrees. I can tell you with 100% certainty, boot camps for beginners are the bad play. That's a bad road to go down, because quite honestly, when you're in a boot camp, the purpose of the boot camp training is to get you through the training. It's not to train you, unfortunately. I hope I'm not offending anyone in the room, but with a boot camp style training, you don't have time to practice what you're learning. A lot of times the equipment doesn't even exist. It's pretty much all theoretical knowledge that you're obtaining. So when you're sitting through a 4-day or a 2-day boot camp type training course, what you're learning is so much information in that 2 days that once you finish that class, you go home and you're looking at all the materials, you're going to think one or two things. First thing is, I have no clue what I just did. I have no clue what they taught. I don't know. It's too much. Or the second thing is going to be, I'm not sure if I can pass a certification exam with what I just went through. In an educational environment like a higher ed or like a PTech, you have an opportunity, number one, to work a lot more closely with your faculty because you have a little bit more time to do that. But number two, you have an opportunity to get that hands-on that's necessary. As a person that's had industry certifications, I can tell you that hands-on piece is critical for you to understand, for you to actually be able to retain the knowledge and be able to pass those exams. I think, to answer your question even more closely, when you are looking at your goal, what is that goal? If it is for you to receive an AAS or a Bachelor of Applied Technology degree, look at institutions that may offer those programs in a shorter format as opposed to a boot camp style training. It is a totally different world. And I I shy away from working with industry partners when it comes to boot camps and students that don't really know the content, because I don't want to provide, or I don't want to try to provide a student that has gone through training that I know is not ready to an industry partner, because then that industry partner is going to be looking at me cross-eyed and saying, you know, this person is not properly trained, and I lose out on the opportunity to gain that partnership. And I also lose out on the opportunity for that student to gain that partnership with that company. So that's a very tricky area to go into. Now, I can tell you that if you are a seasoned professional, boot camps all day. You may not need the degree. You may not need a bachelor's. You may not need an AAS degree. You may need, as I said before, quick reskilling, because it's a new tool. Somebody said tools. It's a new tool or a new focus area that you're working in. So all day, boot camp style if you're a seasoned professional. So I guess you have to look at it from that perspective. What do I know? What do I think I know? And what do I know I don't know? And then choose from there.
So I'm going to piggyback on that from an industry perspective. So I have both higher education, advanced graduate degrees. I also have a million different certifications. And I'll tell you that as we talk about technology evolving, my ability to keep up with what the technology is and to keep my skills relevant to what I'm doing is dependent on the foundation that I have. So I didn't just start off going to a boot camp going, go get this certification and check it off the list. It was, how do you think? You're developing your critical thinking skills, developing the understanding of how does this technology actually operate. I did that 20 years ago when all this stuff started. It makes incrementally learning later much easier, and boot camps do work in that sense later on after you've gotten the foundation. But if you're just starting off, to start with, just get to the A on the test, you're missing the whole foundation. It's going to make it much harder for you as technology evolves to keep up with the evolving technology and meeting the demand. So I think, you know, what Dean Hubbard just said is right on target. You have to really develop those skills, and you do that whether it's through a degree or through a formal certification process much better than just get the A on the certification test and check it off the list.
Yeah, and if I could add a couple things to that too. As far as the students that I'm working with in high school, a boot camp might be valuable to say, is this something I'm interested in? Is this something that I like? Is this fun for me? Am I excited about this? It gives them a taste of what it is before they make a commitment. And I wanted to, I hadn't pointed this out, but I mean, the students that come to P-TECH are making a tremendous commitment for 4 years, and they give up some things too. We're not a traditional high school where we don't have things like band and choir and athletics. Students can go back to their home campus and participate in their home campus athletic teams if they want, but they do make a sacrifice to pursue what they want to do here, and we want to make sure that it's something that they want to do. And you know, another aspect of you know, preparing students for industry is as the P-TECH model, we, starting in 9th grade, establish, we have a work-based learning advisory board. We have a support professional on campus who is our P-TECH coordinator, who is responsible for planning and building out the work-based learning experiences for our students and establishing formal industry partnerships with the companies in the area. And so our students from day one are getting contact with industry, getting hands-on experiences, and building those connections through those partnerships. And so for us, it's definitely important to build the foundational skills. And you know, like they said, you know, a boot camp really can't provide that strong foundation for the type of learners that we're serving.
Okay, thank you. We have one question. Yes.
I know that you guys talked about being taught in broader topics, especially you, Mrs. Hubbard. How do you feel that when students go into interviews and they are turned down because they don't have experience in Nessus Tenable and things like that, but they have the broader foundations, but they're turned down because they don't know that product?
So is your question, what do they do?
Yeah, like what is your opinion on that? How do you feel when your students are turned down, when you guys have taught the broader knowledge of security, but they're turned down because they don't know this product?
So the question is, when we have students that are turned down because they don't really fit with a specific job that's being offered, right? That's a hard one for students because you don't want to hear no. None of us like to hear no. And the answer kind of changes based on the situation. Sometimes it is just not the right partner, right? It's just not the right match. Somebody was talking earlier about, I can teach that if I have the mindset, I can teach the skill set. Sometimes it's finding the employer that will say yes to you because you have that mindset. You've had a little bit of training, not enough training. They'll bring you in. They'll set that for you. You got all the training you need if you have the mindset. A different situation may be that student really they've taken so many different courses, and for whatever reason, they have such a broad knowledge and no focused knowledge that they don't fit a company's needs. In that regard, in that situation, it's more of I like to say, consultation with the student. Having that conversation with the student and talk about what is it that you really want to do, because you have such you're a jack of all trades. You're not really, is that the right saying? The jack of all trades? You're not really a master of one. So it's that conversation, and sometimes it's a hard conversation because students come in and they are just gung-ho on what they want. But what you've done is you've put yourself in a place where you have no specialty. There's no specialization. You can do all of these things, and it might touch here and it might touch there, but you can't do all of this and you can't do all of this. So it needs to evolve into a conversation of, let's pull it back. Exactly what is it you're trying to do? I know you want cyber. Let's look at the different areas in cyber. Look at the different skill sets. Choose what fits you. Choose what you are comfortable with, but something that you're going to want to do on a daily basis. Because as I said before, IT in general, and all of us know that, IT is fast-paced, is always moving. Cybersecurity can be very chaotic. And so for you to be in a field where you're there just for the salary, you're not feeling it, you're not really into it, you might have taken all these classes because your mom told you to, or whatever the case may be, you got to pull that back and you got to sit down and have a real conversation and talk about what is it that you really want to do. And if that student has no clue, which is most often the case, sit down with that student and walk through different positions, different companies, look at different technologies across the gamut. What's out there? What's available to me? And one of the things I have found with our cyber students, and our AAS degree program has over 300 cyber students. They hear cybersecurity and they see equals $, right? Because, honestly speaking, it's a profitable career. It can be very profitable, but you have to understand what you're wanting at the same time. You can't go into this with a $, because that's when you go in and get this training that's all across the board and you have no formal specialty. So there are conversations that you have to have with the student, but that student has to have some idea of what they want.
Well, and I would imagine that ties in with the internships that many of y'all offer and the opportunities to get some of that specialized experience in a real world situation to see if it's something they like. So,
responsibility there too, right? Me as hiring somebody, I don't always necessarily look at all their skills. I want somebody who's got a good personality, somebody who's got the willingness to learn, and obviously they have the aptitude to learn, because then they wouldn't be in this space. So that's kind of what I look at. And when I interview somebody, I turn their resume over and I said, okay, you're here because I liked what was here. Now tell me, to your point, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And then we see where, so that sometimes is back on the hiring employee, the employer, right, as opposed to the student, because student may not know for a while. I was a Fortran programmer when I started. Yeah, that's bad. And as the gentleman up there, I said, have somebody install a NetWare server, see how they like that. They'll never want to go to IT again, right? So Yeah, to your points, I think we got to work both ways, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, we got about we actually have gone over because we started early. We got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
We got a question up there, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought it was important for me to say we'll take some responsibility from a corporate perspective.
So one more quick question, and then I want to get the panelists to do one final thing before we wrap
Okay,
up.
one more quick question.
One question.
Sure. My question is, with the need in technology being so big, so deep, so wide, with you all being educators, how do you feel about a model that would bring middle school students, high school students into the college environment so that you can reach down deeper and maybe ready some of these students quicker and get them into earlier internships that could then lead to jobs? Because the average teenager at about 14, 15, 16, they're ready to work, and they're showing it in the gaming industry. So just like to just get your feedback on that, and I think that's a model that you should consider within each of your schools. Thank you.
I mean, that's exactly what the P-TECH model is. We bring in students from 8th grade, and they have decided that they want to pursue a career in cybersecurity. Now, our challenge is that we have one school and one pathway, and we take in at most 32 to 34 students every year, and so we need to grow that. But that's really what our goal is to, and I said earlier, it's very important to expand the course offerings at the middle school level, so students can see themselves in these career fields and even be aware of what they are and start developing those programming skills and those thinking skills and those technical skills, so that when they get to high school, like you said, they would be ready for an internship or even an entry-level type position when they're eligible to work.
Great. Very good question. So one last thing to wrap up. I've asked each of our panelists to give one quick takeaway that they would like for y'all to walk out the door with. So if you've been sleeping through the rest of the panel, here's your chance to get the Cliff Notes Twitter version of the panel. So Dr. Malky, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, our program is a graduate program designed for both full-time students as well as professional working in industry and who wants to advance their degrees to become a leader in their field. So it's applied. Normally, we at the graduate level, we do not have labs, but in this program, we have 2 labs. One is computer labs, which they learn skills on software as well as hardware and networking. And the second one is SCADA, which actually it's $1 million worth of equipment funded by NSA. And the last thing I want to say that our program ranking, according to different sources, one of them is university.com, it's 14 in the nation, and according to universityhq.org, it is 35 in the nation. So please join our college.
Thank you. Dr. Hubbard.
So I think my big takeaway is this. When you're talking about education, take a minute to research what you want to do. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we all partner, right? The universities are partnering with the colleges. We are partnering with the universities. We're working together with the industry partners. We are all a big collective. I don't think any of us compete. I think somebody said that earlier during the speech, during the session. I don't think any of us compete. What we do is try to help you meet your goal, but you have to help us help you. Take a moment, think about what you want to do. Do some research in the field. If it's cybersecurity, do research in the field. Look at the different positions. Look at the different skill sets. Look at companies that are hiring. Figure out what companies are hiring what positions and then go from there. But you have to know what you want to do. You have to have some idea of what you want to do. Once you get that ingrained in yourself, then look at the various offerings, colleges, universities here in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, UTSA has a wonderful cybersecurity program. I don't think any of us compete, but just take a moment, learn what you want to do, and then look for an institution that meets your needs. If it's an AAS degree, wonderful. If you're, looking at tuition, look at a 2-year college with a program that might have a 4-year degree. If it's fast courses that you want to take, I'm not going to boost the boot camps unless you're seasoned, but if it's fast track, look for colleges and universities that offer shorter courses, maybe 8-week courses as opposed to 16-week courses. But it all starts with, what do you want to do? You have to have a starting point. You can't just jump in the middle of the water and expect to, reach land in 2 minutes because that's what you want to do. You have to take a moment and think about it, do the research, then figure out where will be the best fit for you.
Thank you. Tom.
The one takeaway I'd like you all to have, especially the private sector industry, those of you that are looking for my students to hire coming out of high school, and is how can you market yourself and your company as a place that they want to work? How can you inspire the 14-year-olds and the 15-year-olds that they want to have a career with you, and that they want to learn and grow and become a part of your company family, your company culture, and so often I've heard that students graduating from high school aren't ready for the workforce, or and companies are having to train their own when they hire them. Well, what I'm asking for is how can you help me help my students and inspire them to see cybersecurity when they're 14 years old as something they would love to do as a career.
Cool. Thank you. Dean Evans, wrap it up.
Like Tom, I also want to speak to the employers in the room. Houston Christian University is distinctly Christian. It's not just a word in the name of our university. So we truly integrate a Christian worldview throughout our curriculum. So our students are discussing and wrestling with ethical and moral considerations. And so if you think about any area of our society where that's more important, I think security is it. Project-driven curriculum. So our students are going to be graduating, they are graduating, ready to hit the ground running with practical experience. So they have that knowledge and that experience. Thanks so much.